Before we begin, a quick plug for my new channel, Enjoy Culture. First video is out at the same time as this one. Please go and check out, I'm excited. Advert over, back to today's subject, silence, which they say is golden. They normally means parents and teachers, not great composers. Surely silence is the opposite of music. No, all music starts and ends in silence, and in between, music and silence are part of the same process. Like the spaces you need in a sentence to tell the words, the silence between the notes are as important as the notes themselves. People say Mozart said that. He didn't. It was probably Debussy who said, rather more poetically, the music is not in the notes, but in the spaces between them. However, in this video, I'm talking about the most effective silencers, proper silencers in music. So, I found my 5 fave uses of silence in classical music, ending with something that will truly take your breath away, but starting with the most revolutionary opening to a symphony ever composed. Welcome to the famous opening of Beethoven's 3rd Symphony, the Eroica. Now I know that might not have sounded very silent, but if you look at it mathematically, it is. If you actually look at the score, 4 of the first 6 beats of the symphony are silent, and when you consider those chords are played staccato, that means 5 of the first 6 beats of this symphony are silent rests. We forget now how revolutionary a start to a symphony this was. For Beethoven's audience, brought up on Mozart and Haydn, music began at the beginning and didn't stop till the end. If there was a pause at the start, it was for a slow introduction. Nothing like this, where we just get 2 wallops and then off we go, swept into the history of Beethoven's revolutionary Eroica Symphony. Wake up, audience, the music is saying. This is important. So, my first example comes from the front of a symphony, and my second comes from the end. There's something about the way Sibelius punctuates those pauses at the end of his 5th symphony that surprises me every time. I know, it's because I'm an idiot. It's so satisfying to be wrong. There's actually 9 times more silence than sound in those last few bars, and yet it feels still exhilarating. Fabulous writing, Sibelius. So silences can be loud, but they can also be quiet. Schubert's Final Piano Sonata is one of my all-time absolute favourites. It comes towards the end of Schubert's life, when he was dying, probably with syphilis, and was suffering reoccurring bouts of ill health. I think that ominous rumble in the bass is a warning of something not quite right coming from deep within. It's such a quiet rumble. PP, pianissimo, and then we are signalled silence, first with rests, then with an actual pause, indicated by this symbol, the fermata, from Italian fermare, to stop. This symbol means pause. The rule of thumb is leave a gap double your normal, but a lot is left to interpretation, and the pause can be used in a number of ways. Beethoven, for example, right from the off, enjoyed leaving pauses at the end of a movement. Here is his Opus 1 No. 3 Trio, his very first opus number composition, with a pause on the last bar. Cut forward, a single opus number, Opus No. 2, Beethoven's very first piano sonata. At the end, another fermata, another pause, this time over the rests in the bar. But hang on, what's the point of putting a pause over a rest? Can't you just put in more rests? Well, this is about interpretation. These indicate a gap between the last note and the end of the actual performance, a reflective pause the performer hopes before riotous applause. Back to our Shubert. That pause, that silence after the low rumble, gives us time for that rumble to penetrate and sink in. It reflects, I think, the deep unease Shubert must have felt, even as the most beautiful music he had ever composed was flowing out of him. That trill is so quiet that the silence after it gives you all the more to think about. Which leaves two more stunning examples of silence, starting with Wagner's Overture to Tristan and Isolde may be the greatest use of silence in all music. Silence is in the DNA of this overture, indicated in the score, not just by rests, but also by these fermata. Beautiful controlled use of silence makes that breakout of strings feel all the more passionate or desperate. I could go quite deep on this one. Silence or death is what the entire opera Tristan and Isolde searches for. It's really extraordinary. That's 4 examples, and I'm saving my best for last. The greatest silence in all music, John Cage. No, that's not happening. John Cage's 433 turns silence into a gimmick. This video is about musically effective uses of silence. And my number 1 is the very best. Bach's cantata, often named Actus Tragicus, feels like a deeply personal work. He wrote it when he was only 22, and although we don't know the exact biographical details, this certainly feels like a work for a funerary work. It's written about death and how we deal with it. It feels personal as you can get with Bach. This section comes right in the middle of the piece. Now picture the scene. We're at a deathbed. Firstly, the choir sings at us, "You will perish." Next, the instruments depart like a dying heartbeat until we are left with a final breath, calling out Jesus' name into a blank void. Okay, let me put that all together. Bach has scored the silence deliberately, firstly by scoring a rest, then by scoring an entire bar with a rest, and thirdly by putting a fermata over the final bar as well. It's a stunning silence that speaks volumes, confronting us with the blank reality of death, with our own mortality. And the rest, they say, is